Boom. Now, we're live, ladies and gentlemen. You might not believe this, but this is actually the second time I've been trying to record this today. And the first time, the power wasn't working because the breaker to the main line of the house had gone off and needed to be replaced because the jungle likes to eat everything. But that in mind, I want to dive in. We're going to be taking a look at Ethereum, Bitcoin, Binance, and BAT. Okay? Now, we're going to start with Ethereum, and we're going to move into Bitcoin and the latter two, both BAT and BNB, as I would like to go over something that I think is very important to recognize in this growing and budding ecosystem. So we'll jump over here. We are currently looking at Ethereum now on the daily chart. And ladies and gentlemen, what we want to go over again here is just this repetition build into the mind that we are trying to find accumulation patterns after distribution patterns. So here back in 2017, 2018, we saw this big run up and buying climax into Ethereum, and then we started to see a distribution phase. And we fell into our primary support, our selling climax, and then we had our automatic rally followed by our secondary test, and the spring here, which was the time of the pandemic. Now, the reason why this is important is, again, what we're looking for is the ability to identify market cycles of up and down, and then up again. So I've started to look at Ethereum as our new guiding light in the market sentiment of this sector as a whole. It used to be Bitcoin, but now I think what's noticeable is the footprint of the Ethereum to US dollar chart right now is very, very clearly, to me at least, indicating a year-long plus area of accumulation, almost 700 days. That's a massive amount of accumulation time. This is what we look for in CompMan, taking a very long time to build a position. We have real money makers in Ethereum that I don't think we have in Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is still full of a lot of kind of cultist maximalism, and because of that, it still has rather, let's say, weak or at least inconsistent hands. You could maybe say in the world of professional market makers, it's like trying to play poker with a bunch of newbies, and because they don't know what they're doing, you also can't tell what they don't know that they're doing, so you can't read their character in any way. So I'm basically ignoring Bitcoin as the leading indicator in this market and using Ethereum here. So Ethereum, since the spring in the pandemic, this final touch of supply, we've been slowly moving up this LPS range. We broke into our SOS, and now we're finding our backup. So we're actually in a line of a new channel right now that we started building. So this is a really important area to watch over the next little while, because if we actually start to build another accumulation, or more importantly, a reaccumulation area within this green chart, that's going to be very, very nice. You know, we could fall down lower, and again, I'll just draw it in here. We could come down to this bottom regression line. So instead of charting Bitcoin as my leader here, I'm going to chart Ethereum. So I think we're going to, after the SOS, we could come back down to the bottom regression line, and that quite often happens. But again, what we're interested in is finding these box relationships. So right now, it's too early to tell. And what we're doing, guys, we're not trying to predict the market. We're just trying to follow the waves that the big money industry is playing, right? So the bull market hasn't started yet. The retail investors are just kind of starting to show up, at least the ones who are in this sector from, you know, the last few years, the crazy veterans and OGs who really know this place. But more importantly, now that we see big money coming in, we could start to witness a much clearer form of these accumulation ranges, which is so important because for us, that's where all the money is. That's where all the big profits for minimum exposure time take place right now. So Ethereum, I believe, is that leading indicator for us. So I'm going to be watching very closely to see if we're forming an accumulation channel here. You know, because Bitcoin could come dropping down as low as $6,000. There's so many weak or at least inconsistent hands in that market yet that I don't want to trust it for its market pricing. Whereas Ethereum here, this 780 days of accumulation, and you know there's big players here. You know there is big players here. This is the footprint. This is the waveform of the wake and the whale, the boss comp man, however you want to look at it. And this to me is very exciting. This is actually a great moment because it means we're going to get to witness a reaccumulation and a breakout. So here, think about it this way too. Even a reaccumulation would send us into this bottom regression channel and likely up. So I'm charting for approximately, I know I just drew this up, but it's probably somewhere around $800 to $900 Ethereum on the next leg up. Probably right at this line here, like this, around 680 would be the first one. I can see it's very, we could probably actually get a little bit more in depth, but for now we won't think too much. And then again, we would be maybe looking for a breakout towards the all-time high in the buying climax over probably a bit longer, right? You'd want to think that this would go something like this and then like this, right? So we're looking, this is like forward looking into a long time. But remember, if you're new to the Wyckoff method, what you need to do is think that human nature isn't in like you're not the one necessitating this trade, right? You're not the reason necessarily that Ethereum blows up, but Ethereum's volume and this constant absorption of supply over the last 780 days and this move up this regression channel into what's going to likely become a reaccumulation area is hyper bullish. And not just that, it's actually bullish for the rest of our sector. Comp man is smart enough to know that he doesn't know. So he doesn't have the bias of say, oh, these projects are shit or not. I'm going to have to mark my video swearing, but he doesn't care. He doesn't give it about fundamentals because he knows his best bet is to literally invest in everything and let the market decide. He's so much smarter than most of us that he knows at least he's not smart enough to be able to tell the future when so many things can happen by sheer luck and randomness. So he prepares for that by literally investing in the entire sector. So keep that in mind. He's smart enough to know that he's not smart enough to actually know. Now, there are clear indicators, right, that certain technologies and companies will do better, and we use those fundamentals to our advantage. But comp man, infinite money and time, does not care. He literally invests in everything. So I'm very bullish on Ethereum. I think we're going to hit the second regression channel here, probably close to November. Now, again, what's important to note here is that, guys, like even from the bottom of the spring to the middle of box D before E started was 130 days. Most of you do not have the patience, but what I've been doing is learning how to build consistently into these moments, right? Because there's no sense for me to buy Ethereum back in January. It's just stupid. Wait till the end of box D when real money is here and let them bring you all the way up to $900 to $1,500 Ethereum, getting dragged through the mud. Oh, just hodl, blah, blah, blah. Don't take, just buy. Don't even pay attention to what you're doing in the markets. That's a horrible, horrible mantra. If you want to learn how to play here, just spend a little bit of time to study. It's not that difficult, right? Look, investing and holding a long-term investment is a great idea, but learning how to play through the waves is a much, much smarter idea. There's tons of people you can talk to that had Ethereum back here in 2017. They rode it all the way up to the top and then rode it all the way down to the bottom and had to sit through this garbage, drag you through the mud moment to get into our, now this is the only moment I'm actually interested in investing into Ethereum is right here, this area here, right? That's it. This is the most beneficial time to be paying attention to these things in the last 2.5, 3 years. Now, it's not the same. There are actually other tokens that gave us more rewarding calls. So for that, we're going to look at Binance token. Now, again, here, what we're trying to do is build conjecture around a theory and build a hypothesis. So technically speaking, there is actually a really beautiful, very small accumulation pattern that took place here for Binance token. And here's your backup phase, right? This was like a 6 to 9 month backup period. And look at this. You got some great gains out of this. 157% against Bitcoin in early 2019. That was fantastic. But either way, that was our buying climax, right? Binance has the new Binance Smart Chain, massive liquidity pool, huge community. They're doing really well building for themselves. So here we see buying climax, distribution, primary support, selling climax, your automatic rally, your secondary test, your spring. Oh my God, everything's in the pandemic is going to hell. We're all going to need to have rice and horses. So we don't really, we get lost in this moment. But here we are coming into box D now. That's so important is recognizing entries into these spaces. Hey, one sec, sweetie. So the area that I'm looking at now is this regression channel that we've been building through. So you can see CompMan is very clearly playing in Binance token right now. I do suspect we'll come back to the middle of this regression box, either test it or break through the bottom. I built for around 30 days here a position through this test. And then up at this 20% spike, I actually shaved off around 60% of the profits just because I'm getting more used to, here I am at my entry point. This red line around the POC is where I try to make most of my entries in the early test phases. It breaks to the top of the box. I sell a lot of my profits here. Great run. 10x, 20%. It's almost 200% gain in less than 11 days after the 30-day accumulation period. Now I'm going to restart buying back in. I'm going to restart buying back in based off these smaller indicators. So again, here I'm going to look at the 15-minute on Binance just to kind of show you something take place here. So you have this downward channel that's now turned into a potential accumulation range. So as the trading range goes sideways, this is when we want to start paying attention. Now on the small time frames, again, it doesn't really make a big difference, but I'm here all the time. I'm watching, I'm learning, I'm growing. So I like to watch these things. So last night I saw that we were hitting a distribution along the top of the regression channel. So I sold 60% of my position because it just makes sense to do that. I knew we were coming down lower. Now how much lower? Maybe not that much lower. Even the bottom of the regression channel is only here at 19,200 Satoshis, right? Whereas maybe we come back down to the bottom of this this accumulation area to 2,400. So again, the important part is to build this thesis out in as many areas as you can first, to take your focus, your trading mentality, try to find these things and then execute them, right? By making small entry points, getting to know how to recognize these things, and then learning through confidence, not through what I say, but through your confidence of watching the market and watching and knowing what these do, because we've had a bunch of them. You go over here, you're like, oh, okay, here's IOTX, here's the top of the box. Bam. Oh, not quite to the 30% part of the breakout. And like, again, we're still breaking out through the top of the supply here, but even still, it's a 40% move from the top of the box. Again, we try to get down in here in the test areas, right? So again, the important part here is noticing these particular types of phases, because that's where they do really well for you. So, some of our earlier plays with seller did really, really well out of the top of the box. And I even made a few mistakes with this one. Bang, almost up to the 100% range from the backup. So again, what's important is that don't just trust me either, right? Just go do the work, find these things, chart them, and watch them over the period of a year or two. You'll then know how well this works. You don't need to trust me. You can do the work and prove it to yourself. So do it. So again, at this moment, I'm going to take the thank you to all the new Bear family that joined from the podcast we did with Lark. I really, really appreciate that. I made a mistake, and apparently you guys haven't been getting your welcome emails, because when we used the code to change the product ID and it didn't automate through the emails. And so I'm going to be resending all the welcome emails to everybody that joined in the last probably 10 days, just to make sure. So if you didn't get those and you're a little confused on why you didn't get them, I apologize. It was my mistake. You will get those tomorrow morning. I'm going to go through each individual account and make sure that they're sent out. I was wondering, I was like, why? What do you mean? Did you get your welcome email? No? Okay, well, what happened? What went wrong? You got a Telegram link. So, okay, I see. I figured it out. It's the product. Anyways, the point of this is, thank you guys all for being patient with me. We'll make sure we find a way to make that up to you. For those of you that didn't get the welcome email, be patient. I will be doing that all tomorrow morning until everybody has their email hit their inbox. So with Binance, again, we see the proof. I made my entries through this 30-day test. Now, normally, again, I would just sit here patiently, but after the volatility in the market, that 19% spike up looked pretty tasty to me, so I took a bunch of it off the table. Now let's look at BAT. We're going to leave Bitcoin for last, but let's look at BAT, right? Because BAT, for those of you that have been in the Bear family for a little bit longer, you'd know I built a big position here in BAT. I watched for like 28 days, built a beautiful, sexy position, watched it shoot up 50%. I only shaved off 20% of my profits here just to watch it come all the way back down to my entry, right on this LPS and this POC line. So we've now identified something that I did not know before, and this is the process of learning. These are called mini SOS phases. It's when they break out of the box and come back to your LPS phases, right? What we had seen with Tron was a regular SOS. What we had seen with OMG was a regular SOS. With Waves, regular SOS. Huge out-of-the-box moves very quickly. These mini SOSs are a sign of strength, but still the idea that there's a lot of weak hands left in the supply here, so Comp-Man shakes out all these retail traders. And what you have to remember is, here's the buying climax. Here's a bunch of newbie, would-be traders, me as well, at one point. Oh my God, BAT, it's the coolest thing ever. And you buy it, and you hold it for a year, and then everyone's telling you, hold for a year, it'll be fine. And then you see BAND going up. You're like, oh my God, everything's going up except Binance or BAT token. And then you jump into BAND, and you leave your position here, effectively, right? Because that's what Comp-Man does. He tries to get you out of your position. So there's a bunch of people that were still stuck in here, and they happen to be the ones that left at this particular downswing this time instead. Well, meanwhile, Comp-Man is just building his position. Again, he's investing in this entire sector. He knows he's not smart enough to pick it right every time, so he just gets all of them and then gets it right that way. That's how you deal with a world of where luck is involved. By the way, Comp-Man removes that luck by owning everything, and as much of everything as he can. So with BAT, we came all the way back down to our LPS line. We actually saw something very similar in Algorand and Qtum as well. Oh, dang, I don't have Algorand on this computer. I need to redraw that up. But here you can see the regression, our first regression line, which basically comes out here. Actually, it's a little stronger than that, isn't it? It's about like this, right up to the line. So Algorand's holding quite strong on that regression line. Same with Quantum as well, quite strong on this regression line. And again, what you want to note here is the way that these secondary LPS phases take shape after the, and this is a minor SOS. This is the one where we see that it came out of the box and didn't go out BAT. So anytime I see a minor SOS and there's a strong breakout outside of the box, I liquidate 60 to 70% of all my positions here, because these backup phases can be arduous and long, especially if they're a minor SOS first. You might end up seeing something that's much more akin to another SOS and then a real big breakout. So now, I hope that's been helpful. What I'm going to do now is look at Bitcoin lastly, and I'm going to give my sentiments about Bitcoin because it's acting like a high school emotional drama queen in its pricing right now. And it took me a long time to come to a conclusion of how I felt about Bitcoin, especially after that break. So we had been charting a channel. We were actually looking for something very similar to what we had seen in the last, was a jump across the creek and a breakout. So I thought we were going to get a breakout, but we ended up getting a very strong, very quick distribution. As soon as we couldn't close above the box here, we dropped quite quickly. Now, what's important to me here is two things. Number one, the longer term picture of Bitcoin. Now, here's why I think Bitcoin's acting like a drama queen. There are a lot of retail traders, and there are a lot of would-be cultist investors from the early days of Bitcoin. They don't have a lot of experience with money or emotions, so they create these very, very extreme and dramatic moves through the box. But look, same thing. Here's our buying climax. Here's our distribution. Our primary support, our selling climax, our automatic rally. Wow, there's some serious juice in Bitcoin, right? Look at that automatic rally. Here's our secondary test. Our spring during the pandemic. Oh my God, the world's going to shit. And our test. And likely our first LPS. And likely a minor, an SOS or a minor SOS later, and a much bigger move out of the box. Now, here's the thing that I'm worried about with Bitcoin. Bitcoin could actually make a much lower LPS, maybe even as low as $6,000 near the bottom of the box. Sure, why not? It even actually looks more effective when you look at it on the log chart too. If it'll let me open it up. Yes, there we go. So here's it on the log chart. Your buying climax, your selling climax, your automatic rally, your spring pandemic. See there. Now what this is actually nice. This is very supportive here. No, there we go. There it drops down. So there's reason to believe, guys, that Bitcoin could drop down to $6,000, but that doesn't change my mind. Ethereum is now the leader of this market. I'm ignoring Bitcoin in terms of market leadership, because there's very clearly much smarter, much bigger wallets moving through the Ethereum chain right now, because Bitcoin still has all those weak hands to shake out. So we could see a drop as low as $6,000. But either way, it doesn't make a difference to me. If you keep watching and you keep paying attention with what's going to happen in Binance here, you'll see. Now, again, don't take my word for it. Don't trust me. Do your own research. Do your own diligence. This is Tea with the Arcane Bear. Hope you guys all enjoyed that. I'm going to dive off for the rest of the evening and get back to my portfolio building and market analysis. For all the people that just joined, just give me till tomorrow. I'll resend those out, and we'll see you guys again on the next one. We'll do one again tomorrow.